Good morning everybody, and it's new car collection day. I'm not sure what you're going to make of this one. I'm quite excited about it. I'll explain everything, but also the way I ended up buying it is really quite, it's quite interesting. So I'm going to tell you about that first. We've got to give him a quick bit of breakfast. Come on, pistachio. Lily, come on, come on. Come on, come on. Come on, you little... Come on. So the story goes something like this. I've got my 306, which I love. It's one of the... I think it must be one of the top hatches of all time. But that is supposed to be my daily, and this one is really, really good. So I don't want to carry on using it during winter. Also, to be quite honest, I'm getting old now, and I'd really like something a little bit more comfortable than this. So I've decided to go for something that I'm not sure how many of you will approve, but I think they're quite cool, and I've always wanted to have one. This is just my daily. There's some more exciting stuff coming along, but basically the car is a Rover 75, and let me just show you the one that I've picked. We'll be going to get it later today, so you'll be coming with me for that. So I was looking through the list of cars, and I didn't want the sort of facelift ones, which I think are a bit uglier than the originals with that front end. And also, I didn't want the MG versions because obviously if I'm going Grandad, I may as well go full Grandad for full comfort with a proper Rover 75 and not a semi-pseudo sporting one. I came across this one. I mean, the names they gave them were just terrible. 75 Connoisseur. It is a diesel because I'm doing a lot more traveling now. It is also an auto, which isn't ideal, but it is the kind of spec I wanted. The colour, they're quite rare in a dark colour, and I think it really suits it and makes them look quite a bit better. The interior, I think, looks absolutely stupendous as well. So all in all, I think this is going to be for quite an interesting purchase. It may strike you a little bit as an old man's car, but the thing is that they are comfortable. I like the way they look. I think they're really underrated little cars. And the story of how I found this one is quite interesting. I'm going to tell you all about that. But now we're going to head off, go and catch a train, and go and collect the one that I've bought. Right everybody, are you ready for the big reveal? Or you can just see it anyway, but there it is. So let's take a quick look around. And now there's a few nice little extras with this one. The xenon headlights, which were done by Glenn, who's selling a car. I'm going to tell you more about him in a moment, maybe when we're driving back or when I've got home. But it's got the xenon lights. The colour to me really, really suits this car and just sets it off quite nicely and makes it ever so slightly less old Rover-ish, shall we say. It's also got the Serpent alloys, which again set it off quite well. The chrome looks quite good. I think generally these look, I don't know, I think I like them. I think that as a design it was really quite successful, much more so than the S-Type that you see there, which came out at the same time, the same motor show I think. And was another retro design, but to me much more contrived than this ever was. Now looking outside, it's generally not too bad. That I'm going to show you why there's some little holes in there, and that's something I find quite funny. But apart from that, there's a couple of little dents there, I think where someone was trying to put something in the back maybe. There's a few little scratches and marks and stuff, but it's not too bad. The wheels are pretty serviceable. And when we open the boot, let me just show you that, because it is quite funny. This is why there were some holes in that front bumper. Isn't that mental? So at some point, whoever owned this car was definitely an enthusiast. You'll see from inside as well. But this had this light bar at the front, which is just crazy. I'm not going to be putting it on, but I'm going to keep it with the car because I think it's quite amusing, really. Quite a heavy sort of quality thing as well, with all these little badges. But let's take a look inside the car itself. I've got here service history to 69,000. It's sort of stamped up in the back there. Again, I'll have a look at it in more detail. But it's all there. 44, 58, 65 and 69. There's a fair bit of history with it. Well, a fair bit. There's a little bit of history in it, things that have been done and so on. And inside, this is part of why I really do quite like these, and that is, I really do like the way the interiors look. I think that they did a great job of making them look retro on a budget, I suppose, because these weren't super expensive cars at the time, but it looks like a pretty inviting place to be in. This seat's been recoloured at some point. There's a little bit of wear to the piping there, but otherwise they look to be in pretty good condition. And there's a JVC which I'm going to have to change because that only works with Android. A few other little touches that have been put on. This is like a stick-on panel of fake wood, but it kind of works all right. Also, these little bits are stick-on for the vents, these silver bits. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave them on or not. But otherwise, it is a diesel, which is unusual for me, but I wanted something that would cost less to run. Let's quickly take a look at the engine as well, see what that looks like. There's a little lever here, which is quite, you have to kind of push it, so it's quite unusual. You have to push it forward like that, and again, it all looks pretty clean, fairly tidy in here, so not bad. So it's also got a sunroof, which is going to be quite handy today because the aircon doesn't work. But it is worth talking briefly about the guy that I got this from, Glenn. You can see him here next to the car. When I first saw this listing on eBay, I thought, you know, that's a nice colour for a 75. It kind of makes it look a little bit more sort of with it, and it's not one of the usual pastel old man colours. Plus, nice wheels. I wanted a diesel. And when I tried to get in touch and I wanted to sort of speak to him and said, can I have your number? He said, no, you can't do that because it's against eBay policies. And yeah, if you have an auction, sometimes that is the case, but most people sell them on listings where you can put something down. So that made me a little bit suspicious. But I looked at the history of the feedback that he had got as a seller, and people were saying that he's such a nice guy, he's a really nice guy, and so on, more than one person. Plus, I looked at the history of what he'd bought and sold, and he'd done a few of these. And the way the car was listed as well, the language that was used on there about the plenum chamber mod, stuff like that, which these cars are infamous for having leaks from the plenum chamber, which can eventually get to the ECU, so you do a mod to clear out the drains, all that stuff. I thought, this guy does clearly like them. And as we spoke some more, just with emails and stuff, he even asked me why I wanted a 75. When I said, well, I've always liked them, and I've got a YouTube channel, and I want to, you know, I want to run one for a while, he said, I like your answer. And that immediately I thought, okay, this is someone who really cares about who's going to have this car and wants someone who likes them. And then as I got to find out more, there's even a video about him. He had a collection of, I think, 8 75s at one point. Once I found that out, I thought, okay, you know, this chap definitely is a good egg. And we hammered out a deal, essentially. And, you know, I've come here today, he's shown me around the car. As I said, you know, it's got a few little marks, a few little things here and there, but on the whole, looks like a nice straight car. And the mileage is pretty low. It's only, let's just get it started there, 85,000 miles, which is really not bad at all for one of these. Now I got it for 2,000, which if you look on eBay, I think is pretty good for a car with this mileage. Everything else, they're usually a bit more than that. I think they're about sort of 3.5 from a dealer, so maybe, I don't know, 2.5. So on the whole, I'm really happy with it. Let's head home now, and then I'm not going to do a full in-depth review of the car. We'll do that in the next video, but we'll just see how the journey back goes, and I'll give you a few little comments based on that. Okay, the gear selector doesn't have the nicest action That much I'll say already. So not the best start maybe, but I think it's going to take a while to fully appreciate the charms of the 75. Wow, and getting diesel. I don't think I've ever done this before. So I've done about 20 miles in it now, and first of all, let me tell you the good. The good is that it's relatively quiet and it is very comfortable. I managed to adjust the seat. It's adjustable up, down, you know, tilting, all sorts of stuff. And the wheel as well, lots for reach, rake, everything. And I am pretty comfortable in it. And that is ace. The diesel engine, which is a BMW diesel, I think they came in 115, 130 horsepower versions. This is the 130. It's got enough power. At lower speeds, it does still feel a little bit agricultural. It doesn't feel brilliant, but as soon as you speed up, and certainly at motorway speeds, it's very refined. It works pretty well. So all in all, that's also fairly positive. There is one thing which is massively annoying about this particular car, and that is the sunroof. At speeds of 70, which is where you want to be most of the time, there's a really horrible whistling noise, which means that either the seal has to be changed or perhaps it's a bit misaligned. So that is the one big downside, I would say, at the moment. Also, I'm going to be curious to see how it handles on the little country roads, which I normally do, because, well, the steering feels a little bit odd. I mean, it's fine for motorway use, but there's actually a little bit of weight and resistance to it, and yet it feels really quite wooden, quite dead. So you're not getting anything back in return for that weight. And in a car like this that prioritizes comfort, you know, in cassetting the driver and the passengers, I would have thought it would have been just better to have a little bit more assistance on the steering. Being this heavy as well makes it feel a little bit more ponderous. Maybe on the motorway it also makes it feel more stable. Perhaps that's why. I don't know. But overall, a pretty good start, I would say. It's the next day and I made it back okay. Everything went well. I spoke to Glenn briefly about the sunroof, and he thought perhaps that these things, which I'm going to take off anyway because they are hideous. Some people swear by them apparently, but I don't like them. I've already taken them off. On the other side, he was saying that perhaps they alter the aerodynamics. I don't know really if that's the issue. I think sunroof's like very slightly proud here and a bit more in line with the rest of it, so I wonder if it's this corner that's the issue. I'm also going to try and reset it, take these off, and that's it. But keep an eye out for the next episode when we'll do a proper road test on this car. I'll tell you in much more detail what it's like to drive, and work out if I've made the right choice getting a Rover 75. Thank you all so much for watching, and look forward to seeing you for the next video.